If you found your way to these words, understand that it is not by chance. This message was intended for a select few, and it has found you for a reason. There's a subtle recalibration happening within you, isn't there? It's not the kind of superficial adjustment like changing your morning coffee routine or starting a new fitness plan for a week. We're talking about a fundamental shift in your internal architecture, a deep, seismic event that's been gathering force beneath the surface of your daily life, like a compass needle trembling violently before finding a new north. You likely can't even isolate the moment it began. Perhaps it was a month ago, when you found yourself zoning out during a team meeting about a project that once felt vital. Maybe it was 3 weeks back, when you realized you've been executing your daily tasks with perfect precision, but with zero emotional connection to any of them. Or maybe this has been unfolding so slowly, so incrementally, that only now are you noticing that the reflection in the mirror seems to belong to someone you used to know. But of this, we can be certain. Your presence here, engaging with these words at this specific juncture, is not an accident. You didn't just click a random link because a sorting algorithm served it to you. You are here because a core part of you acknowledges the process. You are standing on the precipice of a profound transformation you can't yet articulate. And one part of you is paralyzed by fear, while another is buzzing with more exhilaration than it has felt in a decade. The reality is, you've been unconsciously training for this moment for far longer than you think. Every time you felt that inexplicable surge of restlessness, every moment you surveyed the landscape of your life and had the thought, surely this isn't the final destination. Every instance you sensed you were designed for a grander purpose but couldn't define what it was. All of that was your internal system preparing for the necessary upgrade. Most individuals navigate their entire existence within a single operational framework, rerunning the same cognitive loops, engaging in the same social scripts, making the same predictable choices, and then wondering why the output remains static. They find a strange comfort in their known dissatisfactions because at least the variables are predictable. They construct sophisticated arguments for why their circumstances are immutable. They become masters of managing their own perceived boundaries rather than dissolving them. But you are wired differently. You've begun to feel that the very structures you erected for your own safety have started to resemble the bars of a cage. The identity you've worn like a badge of honor is beginning to feel cumbersome and ill-fitting. The narratives you've repeated to yourself about who you are and what is achievable are starting to sound like a language you no longer speak, even to your own ears. This is the signature of an imminent system update. Everything that was once second nature now feels contrived. Everything that used to offer solace now feels restrictive. Everything you were conditioned to desire is losing its magnetic pull because you're starting to resonate with a frequency entirely different from your previous baseline. And here is what is rarely discussed about this transition. It is isolating, not due to a lack of people in your orbit, but because you are starting to perceive dimensions they cannot yet see. You're beginning to grasp concepts that are not easily translatable into casual dialogue. You are cultivating a new sensitivity to authenticity that makes superficial interactions feel physically taxing. Your capacity for anything that isn't genuine is plummeting. Those relationships founded on shared limitations instead of shared evolution are becoming energetically expensive. Those pastimes you once used to kill time now feel like you are killing something infinitely more precious within yourself. Those ambitions you've been pursuing have started to feel like borrowed dreams, scripts you picked up from someone else and mistakenly adopted as your own. This transition, this liminal space where you are no longer the old self, but not yet the new one, is engineered to be unsettling. It must be unsettling because stability is what keeps people anchored in paradigms that have expired. Discomfort is the cosmos's primary tool for signaling that it's time to evolve, time to shed the exoskeleton that has become too constricting. But this is the juncture where a critical error is often made. People feel this dissonance and immediately interpret it as a personal failure. They assume something is broken within them. They retreat to the familiar routines, familiar connections, familiar mindsets, because those, at least, are known quantities. They tell themselves the restlessness was just an anomaly, that they should be content with their lot, that aspiring for more is a form of arrogance or delusion. What they fail to recognize is that this discomfort is not a problem requiring a solution. It is a signal demanding attention. It is your internal navigation system alerting you that you have exceeded the limits of your current programming and a reboot is required. It is the universe itself inviting you toward your next stage of development. I'll pause for a moment to say what's customary in these spaces. If these ideas resonate and you want this dialogue to continue and grow, the best way to support it is by subscribing. It's more than a number. It's a signal to the algorithms that something valuable is happening here. Consider every significant evolution in your life. Your first day of school, moving out on your own, starting a major project, shifting your career path. Immediately preceding each of those leaps, there was a period where the old reality ceased to function properly, but the new one had not yet fully materialized. You felt caught between two worlds, a citizen of neither. That is precisely your current location. Except this time, the stakes are higher. This isn't merely a change in your external environment. This is a complete overhaul of how you perceive yourself and your role in the universe. This is about allowing a version of you that has been waiting backstage to finally step into the spotlight, not because you've earned it, but because you've finally permitted it. The evidence has been accumulating, if you've been observant. Synchronicities that are too precise to be dismissed as mere chance. Conversations that seem to perfectly mirror your private thoughts. Resources, articles, and opportunities materializing at the exact moment of need. Individuals entering your life who seem to speak a dialect of your own soul. Your intuition has become more potent, hasn't it? Those gut feelings you once dismissed as noise are now broadcasting with undeniable clarity. That quiet inner voice that once whispered suggestions is now issuing authoritative directives. You are beginning to trust yourself on a level that is entirely new. Not because you have a complete map, but because you are finally willing to explore the territory. And here is the underlying mechanism behind all this surface-level turmoil. You are remembering a truth you were forced to forget. You are reestablishing a connection with a part of yourself that was buried under layers of social conditioning, cultural expectations, and your own anxieties about what would happen if you were to reveal your authentic self. This process of remembering is not an intellectual exercise. It is happening at a cellular level, through your energetic body, through aspects of your being that communicate not in words, but in sensations and deep-seated knowing. You've probably registered that certain physical spaces feel different now. Environments that once energized you may now feel draining or oppressive. Places you previously overlooked might suddenly feel like sacred ground. Your perception of time is also transforming. You are far less willing to trade it for activities that do not nourish your essence, even if you can't yet define what your soul craves. You're becoming fiercely protective of your energy. This isn't an act of selfishness. It's the result of a newfound understanding that your energy is your most valuable and non-renewable resource. Your sleep may be disrupted, with dreams becoming intensely vivid or symbolic. Waking at unusual hours, with a sense that you have just returned from a significant journey you cannot recall. Your consciousness is expanding, and this expansion does not adhere to a corporate schedule. It operates on its own timeline, governed by principles that defy the linear logic of our waking world. You might feel an inexplicable pull toward interests you previously ignored. Perhaps it's a sudden urge to be in nature, to study ancient philosophy, or to engage in some form of creative work, even if you've never identified as an artist. These are not random whims. They are navigational beacons guiding you toward latent parts of your own being that are now ready for activation. The people in your orbit are likely sensing this shift in you, even if they lack the vocabulary to describe it. Some may remark that you seem more reserved or introspective. Others might observe that you appear more grounded or peaceful. A few may even voice concern that you are changing too radically, too quickly. But here is the distinction they miss, and which you are only now beginning to fully appreciate. You are not changing. You are becoming. There is a profound difference between the two. Change suggests an alteration of an existing form. Becoming is the emergence of a form that was always present but concealed. It is not a process of adding new components to yourself. It is the process of stripping away all the components that are not you. This is why the experience feels simultaneously alien and deeply familiar. A part of you is afraid because this path is unlit. You cannot see the end point. There is no guidebook. And everyone around you appears to be marching confidently in other directions. But another, deeper part of you recognizes this journey as the most authentic act of your entire life. Your old defense mechanisms have stopped working, haven't they? The habits you once used to numb or bypass challenging emotions have lost their efficacy. It isn't a failure of discipline. It is your entire being rejecting any substance or activity that diverts you from this sacred process of emergence. Your own wisdom has decreed that it is time to feel it all, to witness it all, to cease hiding from the raw, unfiltered truth of your own experience. Wealth, status, relationships, All the external metrics you once used to gauge your self-worth are beginning to lose their significance. Not because you no longer desire a fulfilling life, but because your very definition of a good life is being rewritten from the ground up. You are starting to prioritize qualities that cannot be captured in a photograph, summarized in a bio, or judged by anyone else. Tranquility is becoming more valuable than thrill. Integrity is becoming more important than approval. Truth is becoming more compelling than comfort. These are no longer abstract ideals. They are the new operational principles that are reshaping your engagement with the world. And here is something that may be startling. The next stage of your life is not about an external achievement. It is not about securing the ideal career, partnership, or home. Those things may manifest, and they may be wonderful, but they are byproducts, not the goal. The goal is to return so fully to yourself that your external reality becomes a reflection of your internal state, not the other way around. You are preparing to live from your core outward rather than from the outside in. Instead of relying on your environment to dictate your emotional state, you are cultivating the power to infuse any environment with your own resonant frequency. Instead of seeking external validation of your worth, you are nurturing an unshakable internal conviction of your own value that requires no outside consensus. This is the reason for the profound uncertainty. You are learning to operate on faith in something that cannot be empirically proven, to follow an intuition that offers no guarantees, to believe in possibilities for which you have no personal precedent. You are being called to trust, not in an external deity, but in yourself, and in a universal intelligence that is far greater than your individual ego. The next phase is not something you will construct through sheer force of will or clever strategy. It is something you will permit to unfold by continuing to release what is no longer true for you, while remaining receptive to what is seeking to be born. It is already happening. You encountered this message just before its full arrival because you needed this final piece of validation. So, here you stand, at the very edge, feeling the resonance of everything I've described, because you have been selected for this path. Not selected by an outside power, but by the deepest, truest part of your own soul that is finally ready to stop rehearsing and begin to live. The restlessness is not a flaw to be fixed. The discomfort is not a sign of error. The uncertainty is not a reason to retreat. It is all evidence that you are precisely where you need to be. You have outgrown the old version of you, and you are about to step into the next. The very fact that you see your story in these words confirms that the great shift is upon you. You do not have to accelerate it, control it, or even fully understand it. You only have to surrender to it. Your next chapter is waiting. It has been waiting with infinite patience as you gathered the strength to leave behind the life that was too small for your soul. And now that you are here, now that you have found this right before the dawn, there is only one thing left to do. Stop glancing over your shoulder and take the first step forward, because the person you are becoming has waited long enough, and it is finally time for your introduction. And to conclude, a small exercise. If you've reached this point and felt that internal calibration, anchor that feeling. Write a single sentence in the comments that captures your biggest takeaway. Let it be more than a comment, a personal declaration, the point from which new things begin.